So, I decided to do my passion project about violence in film. Violence in film is a pretty broad issue, so I start out with the question, why are the vast majority of films violence-centric? The Chicago Tribune says that perhaps violence is cathartic, giving the many difficult and complex problems of the modern day a face that we can punch or shoot, or ideally, punch and shoot at the same time. Next, we can look at how this violence affects us outside the theaters. Violent media is everywhere, and while most sources agree that there is not a direct correlation between violent media and real world violence, CNN suggests that violent media can cause a hero villain mentality. In other words, make children see our very gray world in stark black and white. This led me to think about how responsible directors are for how their films affect people. And you cannot talk about violence in films without talking about Tarantino.
Why are you so sure that there's no link between enjoying movie violence and enjoying real violence?
I'm going to tell you why I'm so sure. Do not ask me a question like that. I'm not biting. I refuse your question.
Why?
Because I refuse your question.
According to him, he's not responsible for what others do because of a film he's created, a statement many take issue with. Considering his record of violent films, I did some research into violence for the sake of violence in films. This article stated that violence can offer a cathartic experience alone, but may be viewed as meaningless without being paralleled by at least a little bit of character development. Quentin Tarantino specializes in gory, bloody, semi-realistic violence, but I wondered how that differed from more fantastical violence. This article said that fantasy violence is less severe because it centers around the consequences and motives behind violence as opposed to the actual act of violence. Now that we know the difference, we can set up a kind of violence formula, one that shows how violence affects the audience and the different categories of cinematic violence. And finally, we have to discuss how to discuss violence in a public setting and how we can use it to better understand ourselves and how it works and how it exists as not a purely good nor a purely bad thing, but a tool that we can use to convey a message or to change opinions.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.